This is Athletes as Educators with former pro basketball player, championship winning coach, and author Angela R. Lewis. Angie Lewis interviews current and former athletes who are passionate about sharing the lessons they've learned and the experiences that have shaped their lives. A resource for parents, a guide for student athletes, a source for current and former athletes, keys to transition off the court. Welcome to the Athletes as Educators podcast with Angela R. Lewis.
Welcome to this episode of Athletes as Educators. I'm your host, Angie Lewis. I'm so excited about our guest today. We have Krystal Beachum. Krystal played basketball at McLennan Community College, then went on to Henderson State. Krystal works for the past few years at the University of Arkansas in academic advising. Just graduated with her master's in sports management. What makes Krystal exceptional is that she's also an entrepreneur. 21 years old, started her first business and started her second business and is writing a book. So proud to know this young woman. Krystal, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Angie.
Now, Krystal and I met at the Final Four this year. We connected via email, but hadn't met in person until the Final Four. And Krystal has a company called Athletes United. Krystal, will you talk a little bit about that, about your business?
Yes, so Student Athletes Unite is actually a consulting business, but it also ties into the experiences of former student athletes. So ranging from if you play basketball, volleyball, tennis, just all trying to get 23 sports involved. And so what I do right now is with high school athletes trying to work on how marketing themselves better and the recruiting process and just an overall education of athletic scholarships.
You know, that's really important work because there are so many athletes who don't know or parents who don't know about the process. And since you've been through it and worked on that side of it, I would like to think that they would love to have your expertise.
Exactly, yes. Actually, growing up, me, my other siblings, my older brother, he actually played football at SMU in Dallas. And then, of course, I went on and played Division II. And then my younger brother went ahead and played Division II football. And then my younger sister, she's actually the last of us, and she's actually playing Division I at Illinois State University. So growing up, we really didn't know the process. You know, we kind of winged it. And, of course, like my parents did everything they could to put us in a better position. So with AAU basketball and summer league and just trying to put us in the best position possible to get a scholarship.
Y'all were pretty busy growing up. Like your parents went nonstop to have those many, young kids playing sports because it's pretty busy. Like the AAU scene is nonstop and it can be intense. Well, how did you and your siblings decide on the schools that you ultimately selected?
Well, I know first it was I know my parents, they told us right off the bat, we can't afford to send you all to college. So they had us in a lot of extracurricular activities as well as try to make sure we stay on top of our grades. So when I tell you we were in band, I played volleyball, I played basketball, I ran track, and my siblings, we were all in band. So either way, we were going to get a scholarship, whether it was through band, through academics, or athletics. But thankfully, God gave us a really good ability to play sports. And so we just made a point to wherever they offered us money or wherever they gave us a scholarship, that's where we went. And then we kind of coincide what we wanted to major in with the university that we decided to go to.
So you looked at the university, thought about your major, and then also looked to see who was actually going to fund your education. And then that's how you made the decision. So you all weren't stuck on a certain conference or a certain region of the country. You were more open.
Yes, very open, very open.
What do you think are challenges that student athletes face these days going through the process?
So now, as for me, coming from a small town and not going to a big high school, I think it was more so getting myself out there. Like trying to contact the coaches and trying to get their attention. I think that was the hardest thing for me coming from a small school. I don't know how it is at bigger universities, but that's how it was for me.
How did you go about contacting coaches? What did you say? How often did you reach out? What was that process like for you?
Well, so I actually play AAU basketball. I had a really good coach that was well connected. And so he did some things for me. So shout out to Coach Art Pertal of the Waco Lady Panthers. And he helped me a lot. He gave me a template of what all needed to be included. So I had to put my stats, what I was involved with through community service, my SAT, my ACT scores, and my GPA. So that was really, he helped me a lot throughout the process. And of course, like my mom and dad did what they can do, but I knew what to do to help me.
That's pretty remarkable to hear that your AAU coach actually like gave you a packet and an outline of what you needed in order to play at that next level. Will you talk a little bit about your transition from high school to college, to community college, and why you made that decision? And then you left after 1 year, right?
So how that was is I blew out my knee my senior year. And so I tore my ACL, MCL, inner outer meniscus, and my cartilage. So on crutches for 6 weeks, it was all bad. So during that time, I was getting recruited by Division III school, maybe a couple of Division I schools, and of course like the junior college. And so when I blew out my knee, I guess some of the Division I schools kind of pulled out, which I can't fault them because at the time they didn't really know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and went to the junior college because, of course, they offered me a scholarship, and it was close to home. And at the time, some people, when they go off to college, they don't really know and don't really feel like they're ready to go off. And that was kind of me. So I was far enough to where my parents didn't have to come to me every day, but I was close enough to if anything happened, I can always come home. So that was one of the decisions that I made going to the junior college in Waco, Texas.
And then talk about your transition. So how did you transition from there? How did you know what was going to be your next step?
So transitioning, I don't think it was that hard for me, just because I believe like how I was raised to like adapt to different environments. So wherever I was, and I think my parents really grounded me to stay focused on me and to stay focused on the accomplishment or the task at hand. So when I went there, it was just like basketball and school. That was it. The transition wasn't hard for me. Of course, I struggled in math. I'm really not good at math, but that was really the only hard thing about me. I pretty much woke up on my own, and I was just really focused and determined to stay the course.
How did you get from community college to your next school? Like, how did they find out about you? How did you find out about them? Because there are some young women who are listening who may have an injury like you had, or maybe they don't want to go too far from home, or they need to go to community college for a couple of years to get ready, but then want to transfer. Can you shed some light on that?
Okay, so my first year I didn't play. I redshirted my first year. So that was hard for me just because I wanted to play, but my knee wasn't ready. And so the first year I really just ran a lot because I know usually coming off a knee injury, a lot of people limp. And so when they would be playing up and down and stuff, I would run with them to work on like me just retraining myself. And so my second year, of course, when I started playing, I went ahead and started sending out a lot of coaches some letters and just letting them know this is my upcoming schedule. I would love to see you here and love to like meet with you and chat with you. And Henderson State wasn't even on my radar, to be honest, but I know a lot of other players or a few players before me ended up going to Henderson State. So I guess I was on their radar. So they came to a couple of my games, reached out to me, and at the time, there was a different coach than the coach that I played for. So he called me and just chatted with me and wanted me to come for a on-campus interview, and I did. And I just really loved the school just because at the time I wanted to be a teacher. So they had one of the best teaching programs in the state of Arkansas. And then so that filled, and I saw other people that I just saw a lot of other people that were, I'm not going to say familiar, but they were really genuine people. So I just really wanted to go to a school that I know I can flourish and that I was around a lot of genuine people.
The fact that you sent information out, I think is great. And then it sounds like that intuition that you have about a school will come out when you go on a visit and when you get to be around different people.
Yes, exactly. And I remember even going there at my visit, there was this, I cannot remember his name, but there was this man there, and he had a really just nice talk to us and was just telling us, like, this is what Henderson State is all about. It's about a school with a heart. You know, you come here, you're going to be one of us. We're going to have genuine people surrounded with you. And I believed him, and he promised that, and his promises held true to that. Like, I can still go back to Henderson and still go back to those people and still go back to just being around those people that helped me while I was at Henderson.
Now, from Henderson, you went to Arkansas, University of Arkansas, which was a big difference, right?
Yes, it was.
How did you, University of Arkansas, how did you get involved with athletics there and academic advising?
Okay, so initially I was thinking about what I want to do next in my career. So at the time, it was my senior year, I was debating trying to maybe play overseas or debating if I should go ahead and pursue my master's. And so I went ahead and applied for my master's because I always have a backup plan, go ahead and apply. And so I had my old AD at Henderson State. He ended up moving to the University of Arkansas, and he worked in development. And so
for those people who aren't listening, I'm sorry, for those people who are listening, would you talk about what development is? I think this is important.
So where he worked at, because now he's at UCA, and so, UCA, University of Central Arkansas, of course, in Arkansas. And so development, what he did was he did a lot of funding for he raised a lot of money for the funding for the University of Arkansas athletics. So whether it was our new academic advising center or stuff for the field or something like that. So he worked with the fundraising. So he did that while he was here. And yeah, so with me trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I went ahead and applied because I saw a position open to work in athletics. And ideally, I still want to be around student athletes. I still wanted to help as much as I can to help them understand that there's kind of like life after basketball, life after their sport. So I went ahead and applied. I got the position. And what I do now, because I have one more week left, I'll be done May 31st. And so I work in academics, and I help the student athletes, or more so my girls. I call them my girls. I work with women's basketball, women's volleyball, and I did work with women's tennis for a year and a half. So I help them on their academics. I help them keep on track to graduate, and I just make sure that they stay on top of their grades. So that's what I currently do now.
What are some challenges that you see undergrads facing, the young women who are in college? What are some challenges that they face?
I think finding yourself, just because, they've always identified as a basketball player.
Yep.
And I think the hardest thing is transitioning away from that. And that was something for me because, from Henderson, I was like that girl. Everyone knew me. Everyone knew I played basketball. Everybody knew I was part of this committee, that committee, and stuff like that. And then when I came here, it was different because I didn't know anybody again. It was like starting over, and I'm no longer a basketball player, but I help with the basketball program. So it was just different because I felt like this is what it feels like to be a nobody because no one knows me. So I think that was the hardest thing for me, was transitioning out of that role of being a basketball player.
You bring up a really great point, Krystal. I'm confident that most athletes go through that. As you know, I've interviewed over 50 people already for the podcast, and almost everybody talks about that, having that same moment where you realize that, no, I'm not on the team anymore. Like, I'm not a ball player officially anymore, but I'm sure you can still hoop.
little bit, I'm retired unless someone called me out.
Right. Will you talk a little bit more about that transition? One thing you mentioned that I thought was important to reiterate is that you had a relationship with the AD at Henderson State, and then when he on to Arkansas, you looked into Arkansas and said, maybe I can tap into my network and go ahead and see if I can make that move. We don't utilize those resources enough. So will you elaborate a little bit more on how you developed this relationship with the AD and how that was beneficial for your next step?
Okay, so I'm actually all about building really unique and genuine relationships. That's just the person I am. And so when I was at Henderson, I was a president of SAAC. So I worked really closely with him. And so we kind of just really built that relationship. He still tells me, if I had a daughter, you would be the daughter. I would date my son. And so that's how that relationship grew. And so I really encourage people just to use your network. You're there at the university, or you're a basketball player, or you're an athlete, so you have all these connections to people in athletics. So make sure that you go ahead and use your network and help build relationships. And so that's really how, I'm not saying that helped him because I have a really good resume. And so, but just him being on my reference, my list of reference was really big in helping me get this, the GA position or graduate assistant position.
What you did is not to be discounted. So although it may not have been strategic, it may or may not have been, you volunteered your time with SAAC. You didn't get paid to be on SAAC. And it was something in addition to going to school, to going to practice, to training, like you were doing all that other stuff. And then you volunteered to be a part of this leadership organization, which put you in contact with people who are in administration. And then you performed well in that role. I'm not talking about on the court, so I don't want the young women who are listening and the people who are listening who are athletes in college to think, well, just go and ask people to give you jobs, because that's not the way this work works. Like, you have to show up, give of yourself first, and then if an opportunity presents itself, will people be willing to put their name on the line for you? Right?
Yes, exactly. So when I started SAAC, I wasn't even the president. I think I became president maybe my second year. And so I did a lot of volunteering, and we actually was able to raise a lot of money. It was for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Okay. And I think it was my junior year. So my junior year, I was able to, of course, connect with the Make-A-Wish coordinator in the Little Rock area. And of course, the AD, Kel Gober, he actually helped me. And so we ended up doing a video. It was during when the Harlem Shake thing was out. Everybody was doing the Harlem Shake. So ours was called Shake-A-Wish. And so we did it during our rivalry game. So it was against OBU. It was OBU in the Henderson game. And so we actually connected with OBU, even though it's our rivalry school, it was for a good cause. And so we all came together and raised over $1,000. So if you want to go see it on YouTube, it's still on YouTube if you want to go check that out.
That's really cool. So not only were you giving to your other athletes, you were also giving to nonprofits in the area. That's one thing that's pretty common amongst athletes, is this desire to give back and to use that athletic identity and influence to help other people.
Yeah, so what I found out is that as athletes, as an athlete for myself, I try to give back to the community that helped me. Because, it takes a village to raise a child. So it takes a village to help an athlete as well. So, so I just think that it's just beneficial to give back to the people that helped you along the way.
No doubt. Because Lord knows there are so many people, from coaches to parents to players, who were, like when you're on a team, you can't do it yourself anyway. So.
Exactly. There's no I in team.
No, not at all. I want to shift gears here just a little bit, because you're unique in that you're a college student. You were a college student and an athlete and an entrepreneur. We talk about, in addition to Student Athletes United, will you talk about the travel company and why you decided to be a part of this organization?
Okay, so I've always wanted to travel, and when I was younger, we really couldn't afford it. If it wasn't for AU, we weren't
Mhm.
going. And so, it's kind of hard to travel with two adults and four children. So you can imagine the flight prices and stuff like that. So we didn't travel a lot growing up, but my dream was to play basketball and travel the world. That was it. However, I played basketball for as long as I could. And so when that dream slowly diminished, my need for travel heightened. So when my friend came to me with the concept, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Just being able to travel and help other people travel as well. So that is one of my passions.
So how does it work?
So how does it work is we sell memberships at wholesale rather than retail. So we have over 10,000 trips that you can choose from every year. So whether you want to travel in the States or travel in Europe or travel in Australia, we have everything for you and everything for your needs rather. Whether it is you want to travel for $100 or if you want to travel for $1,000, it just depends on your preference.
Got you. And so if there are athletes out there looking for spring break, if you're looking for something
Yes.
to do, they could totally reach out to you and
Yes.
connect them and help them get some cheaper prices.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I'm here for.
I just put in a little plug for your business. Help out. But it's important. We talked a little bit before we started recording about being an athlete, being able to own your brand, and there are rules regarding employment that the NCAA sets, correct?
Yes.
And so if you're employed, you can only make X amount of money
Yes.
per year. But if you're an entrepreneur, there's no limit to what you can make.
Exactly. So there's not any NCAA rules regarding entrepreneurship at all.
And it's important to know that you can still do something that doesn't necessarily require a lot of time, but you're gaining experience, and that experience is invaluable.
Exactly. I feel like experience is the best teacher. So I just believe if you have experience or if you are really set on experiencing other things and experiencing a new world, then that's the best teacher regardless of if you're in the classroom or on the field.
Now, what's your favorite place you've traveled?
Ooh, so trying to think. So I went to Cabo San Lucas last summer, and I think that was okay. Well, all my trips have really been amazing because I've been on a cruise and I've been to Cabo, so I took a flight or whatever and that. But I think the cruise is all you can eat. So I literally ate everything. I can really just go around the shelf and say, "Oh, I want this, I want that, I want that." So I may just have to say my cruises may have been the best because it was all you could eat. It
Yeah.
was just amazing. So I went to Jamaica, I went to the Cayman Islands, and I went to Mexico as well. But I think I do a lot of extreme excursions. So I know one of my favorite was I swam with the stingrays, so that was pretty cool. And I actually skydived before, and I went bungee jumping, and so that was pretty exhilarating. So I've done some pretty wild things in my last couple years of traveling. So I'm looking forward to all my adventures for this year. So and I am going to Europe in November, so I'm pretty excited. I'm going to Budapest. We're going to start in Budapest.
Okay.
So I'm going with my cousin. So I'm excited.
That is exciting. The world is so big. There's so much to see, so much to do. And it's great that you are intentional about making it happen. Very inspiring, Krystal. Very inspiring.
Thanks, Angie. I try to be.
Well, Krystal, if there are other athletes who are listening, who are current athletes or former athletes who want to learn more about Student Athletes United, or if they want to learn more about traveling, how can they reach you?
So you can actually email me at krystalbeachum@gmail.com. It's all one word. Or you can follow me on social media you can just follow me at Krystal Beachum. And if you want to check out my website for Student Athletes Unite, it is studentathletesunite.com. So that's pretty much how you can reach me for any bookings or any traveling things, or just trying to reach out and just trying to get more information on just how I'm doing all this, or just how I can help anyone in particular.
Perfect. Krystal, thank you for being on the podcast. Look forward to working with you in the near future.
Awesome. Thanks, Angie.
This is Athletes as Educators.
Thank you for listening to the Athletes as Educators podcast. Connect with me through the Athletes as Educators Facebook page or at Athletes Educate on Instagram. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and go over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. For more resources and information about today's podcast, you can check us out at AngelaRLewis.com.